Welcome to TYT Sports, everybody. Ben Mankiewicz along with Francis Maxwell, our World Cup expert. Francis, thanks again for offering your insight. We're talking about Group F in order. That's Argentina, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Iran, and then Nigeria and Iran. Excuse me, Iran is actually seated technically ahead of Nigeria.
Yes,
My first thought, again, as somewhat of an outsider to this, would be that Iran would definitely be the lowest seeded team in the tournament.
I'm not going to condemn you for saying that. I mean, as I always said in the previous videos, etc., seeds, they don't really, to me, they don't matter as much as people would think.
You think Nigeria?
I think Nigeria.
If assuming that, and I don't know exactly, but assuming you're going to pick Bosnia and Argentina to advance, you think Nigeria a better shot than Iran to crack the top two?
They are the African Cup of Nations champions this year. They have got some good players in there. Actually, the last World Cup they'd done well in was 1998, I think, and they had players like JJ Okocha and Kanu, who these guys have played in the Premier League, and they're very good players, but they haven't put a good World Cup run since that time. They've lost in the group stages every competition they've played in since that in the World Cup. I think they've only managed to get 3 points, well, I think so, out of 8 World Cup games, 3 points. It's not very good with that. So in terms of World Cup, I don't see them going as far as people have tipped them, because they're the best. I think, technically speaking, they're the best African team in this competition.
We're going to get to the picks, the best teams in the in the group, Argentina and Bosnia, in a second. But as I look at the schedule, I see that Argentina actually opens against Bosnia, and then we get Iran and Nigeria. So the Iran-Nigeria game, at least for a couple of days, the winner of that that game is going to feel pretty good, because somebody's going to lose in all likelihood. That they could somebody from that. Assuming there's a winner in Iran and Nigeria, they're going to feel good at least for a few days that they have a shot to break in.
As I always say, the first game is so important. It depends on the luck of the draw. I think Bosnia will be kind of kicking themselves. Oh, why did we get Argentina this first game? But even in saying that, Bosnia had a great run during their competition. I think they won 8 out of 10 qualifying games, and that's a very good statistic to have for a team who's never played in the World Cup. Now, this is their first time.
First time
they're playing in there, and I'm generally a fan of their team. I think they're a great team. And
what makes you think that they can move on out of the group stage?
For me, they have an absolute powerhouse of a front forward too. Edin Dzeko of Manchester City, who partners up alongside a guy called Ibisevic, who plays for Stuttgart, who got 10 goals in the Bundesliga. These two guys, I think they're both over 6 foot, massive guys. They're very good in the air. So I would fancy them to do very well in this competition.
As a somewhat of an outsider, one of the great things about this tournament is those teams that come from, not so much come from nowhere, but teams that don't have a great history in this tournament. And the way that those countries, I mean, look, obviously, it's not as if the Spanish don't root hard for Spain, or the Argentinians don't, or Brazilians, but to see the teams that haven't had this experience before and see the country come behind them, especially a country like Bosnia and Herzegovina, they've been through so much that you're
rooting for them.
I already know instinctively I'm going to be rooting for them.
I mean, if you watch some of the games from their qualifying, they have a great following fans-wise. They all get right behind the national team, and that's something that I think the World Cup brings out in teams as well, even if it's not as popular during the qualifying stages, such as in the USA. I can already see, like, going everywhere, there's advertisements for the World Cup. So everyone tends to get behind the team no matter what, especially with the World Cup coming up. I really hope that Bosnia do well. I'm a big believer that a team who's never been in the competition doesn't have as much pressure, so I think they can definitely thrive.
So you think they'll finish second?
I think they'll finish second, behind, of course, the team that everyone wants to do well and is praying that they finally live up to this expectation of potentially winning the competition, Argentina.
They made a big change. They got rid of the Michael Jordan of Argentina. Maradona is out as coach, and he may have been sort of, Michael Jordan starting to succeed a little bit now as an owner, but he struggled as a general manager, and sometimes it's hard for players for whom the game didn't come easily. Nobody worked harder than Michael Jordan, but who excelled to such an extent when they don't either see the same talent level in their players or the same commitment to excellence. Michael Jordan wasn't born the greatest basketball player ever. He worked at it. He made him. And when you don't see that same work ethic in your players, sometimes you don't know how to handle that. And I don't know whether that was Maradona's problem. He seemed to have a lot of problems as coach.
The thing with Maradona is that when you're in such a high pedestal as a player, like probably considered the most gifted player to have ever graced the game. If you watch any videos of him, he was phenomenal. And
you think better than Pele?
Well, I can't. As I spoke to Jason before this, I like to judge my favourite players and who I've watched personally.
Right,
and,
sure, that seems fair.
Maradona, from videos that I've seen in the past, he was unbelievable, and his dribbling ability, everything was fantastic. However, as a coach, I think that his decisions were very questionable. They barely made it to 2010 World Cup with a last-minute goal by a gentleman called Palacio to draw with Ecuador to send them through. And Maradona ran down the touchline and skid on his belly. That was one of the biggest celebrations to know. And that was I think that was a method to mask how bad the qualifying stage was for them.
And it's like, weird if you're Argentina and you have all this talent, and then you celebrate like you won the World Cup just because you qualified for the World Cup. That seems,
I agree. But they're under a new coach called Alejandro Sabella. Double L, you say it's Sabella.
Probably Sabella.
Okay.
It's okay.
I'm still learning. And they strung together a 14-match unbeaten run in qualifying. So they're looking good. And obviously everyone's asking the questions: is Lionel Messi going to finally take the World Cup under his wing and just take it to the other teams? And for me, I would like to see it happen because Lionel Messi is such a great player. You kind of want him to finally take that final step. He's won the Champions League, he's won the La Liga. Can he win the World Cup now and be as good as everyone classes Maradona to be, because he won the World Cup with Argentina?
We haven't gone through all the groups together, but it sounds like Argentina is among your, certainly, I mean, it's got to be among everybody's choices to win. But do you think you see them win? Who, if I were to ask you right now, and we'll do this in a segment later, who's your pick to win?
Brazil. I've said Brazil are my pick to win. Still Brazil. With the national backing and the players that they have, they're my pick to win it. Obviously, it depends on it all depends on how the other teams perform in the group stages, because the leaders of one group play the second team in the other group. So you never know. Like Spain might have trouble qualifying in their group and come up against Brazil in the next round, and it just gets thrown up in the air. Exactly. It's up to that. But Argentina, don't get me wrong, they have a great chance of going far. Same every year with Argentina. They're great going forward. They have Messi, Aguero, Higuain, Palacio, Lavezzi. These guys, I know it might seem just a names to people out there, but you soccer fans, you know how good these guys are with their club teams. They're very good players. But every year, Argentina don't seem to have as strong a back four as they possibly could have. I mean, Maradona made some bad decisions. He didn't bring guys like Zanetti and Samuel into the starting 11 for the World Cup in 2010, and they have good players in there. They have a guy that's going to start, I think, with Demichelis and Campagnaro, these two players that play centre back, but they're not anywhere near the magnitude of quality that they have up front. Their attacking ability is phenomenal, whereas they kind of lackluster at the back. Depends whether he's going to play. There's a guy called Mascherano who plays for Barcelona, and he plays in centre defence for Barcelona, but sometimes he plays in midfield. If they put him in centre defence, it could be a big factor in potentially getting a strong back four to lead them into that next step.